everybody, Zelfie here. Today I just wanted to do like another one of those videos I did for Scarlet and Violet where I talk about what I've been playing throughout the entirety of the set. Now, I actually find this set to be a lot more interesting than the previous one, but still, I found it a little bit difficult to actually get like my feet off the ground and actually like play new decks. I had a lot of like cool, fun ideas, but a lot of those ideas didn't compete as well as I thought they would into the upper echelons of the meta. At least like before, like when I have my heart set out to like a random deck. Sometimes I find a way to make it work. Like with the Sidgeway V Star was probably the most prominent one that I played because I was winning locals with it, and it was just like Decidueye V Star with the barrel and Gussie pickaxes. It was a fucking wonky ass deck, beating Pokés, things like that. But here, I played mostly relevant stuff, so I'll just go over everything quickly, or at least try to explain everything quickly. I tried a little bit of Team Lu, but one of my issues with Team Lu is I really, really do not like how this deck has to set up. Crydon is such a momentum sink, right? And the biggest thing about Cryon too is that you just have to leave it there, and you never want to use this ability more than once. If you use this ability more than once, you should probably be losing. I put an emphasis on probably because that's not always the case, but it's just not something I want to be happening. And Team Lu, unlike Galarian Wheezing, I feel like it just isn't as prominent because you can lose a Team Lu and then you lose two prizes, and if they like boss or escape rope around this, then, you're out of luck too. So I feel like your opponent's counterplay around this is so much worse. On top of that, the decks that you got to play Galarian Weezy in were like Eternatus, and yeah, I was not the biggest fan of the Eternatus. I really, really despise that deck personally. But, I mean, at least he had a bulky 3 prize to swap into, so there was a lot of us standing for that. This is even working against EXs, so things like Gardevoir, for example, in the late games can still charge up all their RNGs, so you're hoping that you slow them down fast enough that it doesn't matter, right? So I really just didn't like the pace of this deck, and that's why I found to be like the most difficult part. Is that no matter what you change, at the end of the day, it's still like Team Lu, and Team Lu will only be as good as Team Lu is, which I think in the current meta, it's just okay. It's not the most impressive. It's still a deck I think you have to respect, but yeah, not a huge fan. This is sort of like the very I landed on. Even though there's like some cards I think I want to cut, like the Echoing Horn, for example. Might just run more tech shit. Yeah, but I'm excited for Glomora EX and the move Team Lu out of the way. Anyways, here's another deck that I didn't get to play all too much as well. I played. Did I play this at any locals recently? No, I haven't really got the chance to. That's mostly because I've been playing either Lost Box or Chain Pal. And then on, TCG Live, Klefki was banned for a long time. And Klefki is probably one of the biggest reasons to play this deck, at least in my opinion. Because one of the things that you would do is that against like Lost Box, for example, you could Arvin for a VIP pass, and then you would grab you grab VIP pass, which grabs out Klefki, and then like a Miraidon, for example, and the Miraidon can fetch out the Zapdos, and then the tool that you grab is Cleansing Gloves, so you do 70, and then you swap into a Klefki. I thought that was pretty powerful, all things considered. But with this deck being out of maintenance for a while, and me not really wanting to build alternative versions of the deck, mostly because they weren't going to be doing the things that I wanted the deck to do. This deck saw quite a bit of retirement, but I still got to play it with friends, and I had a good time with it. Nothing's really changed since this previous iteration. I still think this is basically the perfect set. The only thing that was changed is I can actually change this right now because I haven't done this yet. Is that we can take out the judges and just run an Iono set instead. And I think the Iono is really great because it's still like an early game aggressive draw, but it still flounders with your opponent's strategies. I really like this deck still. I kind of feel like it might still be on the radar, but this might be more just for last metagame than this metagame. And like I said, with Live having Klefki banned, I just haven't had the chances to actually test all of this stuff out and really get a grasp hold on it. As you can tell, like, I haven't even put the Ionas in yet, so it's fun. I'll play it in person, but I'm not sure if I want to take it, like, super seriously. The next deck I want to talk about is probably the Lost Box variant I've been playing. If you saw the last video, once again, this is going to be another repeat with some changes. I am running a Jet Energy. I've swapped over to two Braving Charms, and instead of Beach Court, I'm running an Artisan. And also, I took out like a Clara and an Energy Cycler and started running two Super Rods instead. I really like how fast this build gets going and how efficiently you can play it, because between cards like Raihan, for example, you can like Super Rod and Artisan out one of your targets and then just Mirage Game. You just have access to everything basically. The Lost Vacuums have also been extremely helpful because in the matches where you're using the Braving Charms, you just lost some of them away without having a loss in your stadium. And you still will sometimes lost in your own stadium, so your opponent can have it. I'm trying to think if there's like anything else too spectacular about this deck. I mean, outside the Zamazenta, one of the reasons why I'm running the Zamazentas is because I just have not been super impressed with any of the two price options. Dragonite's the closest. Dragonite does a huge chunk of damage, but I've always found that it's only good at closing games. And, you know, I never want to leave a Dragonite on the bench, even to access for Skill Stone. I felt like if you just tune the deck to be more consistent and search out exactly what it needs and practice your deck fading skills, the Force Skill Stone wasn't really needed. On top of that, you know, I just have some alternative tools for helping you with that, with like the Raihans and things like that. This card's like, it's a little bad in the mirror. Like, it's sketchy in the mirror because it only does 100 damage to Cramorant if they haven't knocked anything out, but they're also not doing anything back. So you can just like, all you know, retaliate, they cram Swing into it, or they use Sableye, and then they can't do much else afterwards, and you clean it up with throwing Sableye. And then 220 is also just a really, really good benchmark to hit because it kills all the basic Ds. It'll kill some of the basic EXs too. Even against like Chiampao, it'll hit it for weakness, unboosted, so it does 200, and then you only need to clear it off with like a spinning attack, which I have done before. It is pretty funny. You can even do scratch as well, so you know you have options there. The Breaking Charms, they are for like the mirror match. They just help the fuck with like the math a little bit. You can Breaking Charm a Manaphy. If you're playing into a Lost Box with, well, for example, like Halucha, right? You just make the math harder for them. It's a form of healing. I don't like this deck in the Team Blue, but once again, that deck's pretty off the radar. I don't think it's seen too much success, so people aren't going to be playing it. Yeah, but it's fun. It gets the job done. It is a Lost Box deck, and that is the biggest deal about it. The next option we'll talk about this deck because I've played this deck so much. This is basically the only thing I was queuing for like, I don't know, like 3 weeks or something like that when the set released. And the big thing is that, you know, I did get to top 8 of like a 98% of it, something huge like that. And I feel like I cracked the list, but I'm not sure if it's gonna jive well with other people. So the basic gist is you got Tick-a-Toe with the big hammer, and then it does 30x for each card in your hand. So you can use the other Tick-a-Ton, which discards a card and draws 3. So it's a +2 at the end of the day. But, you know, you're still cycling out cards that you don't really want. So, like, in the late game, all your balls, basically. And Rotom in the early game is so helpful because it draws 3 cards. And it's early enough that you can use your Force Seal Stone to attach to it as well. And you get all that going. And you use D-Guard to, you know, make sure your hand doesn't get disrupted. The only thing that's changed since that tournament run is I took out Amazing Jirachi and I started running Mew instead, because Mew was something that, much like Rotom, does something in the early game. Most of these, I think all these guys have a 1 retreat cost, so you can just like attach any of your energies because you have spare for a reason, and sit on Mew for a bit and just draw some cards that way. Possibly even have a VIP pass found, you know, all that good stuff. And Amazing Jirachi was funny. It was kind of a high roll option. Like, if you hit Jirachi, you immediately win the game. But I didn't think it was, like, that necessary, right? And I found the Mia's consistency all around helped in the more difficult matchups against the better players, like Gardevoir, for example, where they could just play around their Rachi with Cresselia. But I think this deck's really fun. This deck, actually, funny enough, reminds me a lot about Gardevoir. because you basically set up your win condition by drawing through your whole deck, and then by that point you're unstoppable. Um, that said, like they can like play around it by bossing my Logic, and then using Roxanne or Iono against you, but I don't know. By that point, they might be so far behind that it really doesn't matter because then they have to do all that and then take a KO against you, which still just is a lot of work. That's at least 2 turns that they're giving up before they actually like do anything significant against you. So I found this deck to be really really fun. It's the only one out of these like not counting Tulu because I was just recently testing Tulu. It's the only one out of these 4 decks that I'm like haven't built in person yet, and that makes me incredibly sad because this deck is so cool. And then lastly is probably this deck that you might have seen me posted around on social media. It is just Chia Pao, but I've taken a way more aggressive approach. Early on, I found that the Palkias just really do suck, and I was already ahead of the curve on that one. And from there, I was trying to play Arceus V-Star instead, because I found that the ability to basically like pull out a supporter or pull out your rare candy or any of your missing pieces was really, really good. I was also playing this with like the barrels and squavettes back then because it's like, hey, you probably want to be Roxanne or whatever proof. But ultimately, I just found like those cards didn't affect me as I thought they were, or as much as like everyone else made it out to be. Because people were like, oh, you need these backup options in case of, Iota or Roxanne and shit gets wrong. That's why you use the Palkia to recover the 3 energies. And I just found building the deck to be more sustainable in the situations, more consistent in general, like get ahead and stay ahead type of deal, was a far better approach. And one of the reasons I also saw was that someone else before me had played Shion Pal at our locals, and they decided to go second. Now, I don't necessarily entirely disagree with that decision because Arena is a good card. And Arena can allow you to have VIP pass plus another Pokemon, which means you're completely set up, right? But I also found that the missed opportunity of going second hurt so much. Like, for example, I was playing Lost Box and I just got so far ahead because I was able to take out the Frigivax and all that stuff. And in that case, I was like, man, it's like, is it working as well as or not that? It was just like, man, it sucks that you chose to go second because you just immediately lost to like Greninja bullshit and all that stuff. So I ended up just making this Totoro version instead. And the 2 unique cards here, I feel like, are the Squawkabilly and the Ice Cube. The Ice Cube was for Team Blue. It was a deck I played against at my locals. I know little category for your local scene and whatever, but I also felt like it was appropriate into other matchups. Like, I knew Winds of Unity was catching on a little bit. In the same tournament that I ended up playing Tinkaton in, Winds of Unity also got top 8 in that same one. And then I was proven a little bit right when Winds of Unity got like top 64 or top 32, something along the lines of that, where I got a notable placement at NAAC. So now even more people are playing Winds, and that's where like the Ice Cube could come in and help to win against that matchup. And the other card I'm running is the Squawkabilly, because like I said, the issue of like quote unquote needing to go second felt so bad. So I ended up running the Squawkabilly, which allows me to dig so much deeper into my deck, and I cannot like explain how helpful this is. Granted, it does suck. Like if you start out with like a Super Rod or a Super Energy Retrieval, or at least like it like really really sucks if you have like 2 energy retrievals in your hand. Like fuck, I need to squawk out of this. So you do right. So you can run like possibly a Palpat in here to maybe get some of that stuff back, but like I don't know. It's just it's so sketchy. But regardless, like I found Squawkabilly to be pretty good. I've even used the attack like quite a few times to motivate because you just are like, oh, it's turn 1. I don't have much else to do, and maybe my opponent is Gardevoir, and I know they don't have the ability to KO me super easily, so I'll just go ahead and motivate some energies of the Chimpao, and that like gets me going like so quickly. I also think Skinner's Park is a trap, so I'm running 1 Collapse and 2 Artisan. Artisan's sketchy because you give it to your opponent as well, but you just gotta accept that if your deck is a hyper aggressive deck, like this one, and it absolutely needs setup, the Artisan's probably going to be more beneficial to you. The only deck that might use Artisan better than me is maybe like a Lost Box variant, but even then, I still think it's possible that you just go with it. You can use Ice Cube to help bully them around a bit. and things like that. And then the one collapse stadium, I almost never want to run a deck without collapse because it allows you to like get rid of the squawk ability, for example, or the minion. It also just pressures the opponent. Same thing about pressuring is Avery. I think Avery is really good to like all the top tier decks right now. Like think of your like Gardevoirs, your Lost Boxes, and even your Mew Genesects, which is a deck I'm too afraid of, but still, you just help them limit their bench and they get slowed down a lot, and you help them maintain your lead. This deck is all about like keeping your lead and trying to stay in the lead. And that's why I like it so much. It also just reminds me of one of the first competitive decks I played, which was like Black Hero EX with like Blastoise. I thought that deck was so fun. But yeah, those are my decks I've been playing. Uh, so like overall rundown. Saturday I didn't get to play this more, but I'm not too sure if it's something that's worth playing right now. This is a Lost Box deck, so it will do about as well as any other variant. You can play higher range stuff, but I'm playing it local, so I'm just gonna keep it chill. I also like my keep it tough, or yeah, my Bravey Charm and Lost Vacuum stuff. This deck's super fun. I think this deck's like low key tier 2. And then this is the deck I've been playing the most. We have a tournament at the end of this month. It's like a win a box tournament, so I think I'm gonna end up playing Chi and Pao that event. And yeah, I'm sure it'll be very very exciting. If you guys do enjoy like me just ranting about some of this stuff, or want to see like a video on any of these decks, feel free to leave a comment. And yeah, I'll see you guys around. Peace.